Good morning, everybody. Frank Macaluso here from Garageaholic once again, and we have the N54 swap behind me. Guess what we're doing today? If you couldn't read it from the title, oil cooler. But we can't just install the oil cooler, because before you install anything, we have to fit everything. Do I really need to install all this stuff just so I can fit the oil cooler? And the answer is yes and no. Here's the oil cooler here. I just installed this here, just stock factory location. The oil cooler itself and the lines are all stock and in a stock location. It's kind of peeking through down there, and we'll take a look from underneath in a little bit. But why do I need to install everything in order to get the oil cooler installed? Well, first of all, the radiator has the condenser attached to it, and the condenser has its own air dryer, which is really convenient. The air dryer is literally right in there. It's part of the condenser unit, which is nice because it does save us some room. The E36 dryer used to go down in there, but we can't fit that because that's where the oil cooler is going to go. So it's actually kind of a blessing in disguise having the dryer part of the condenser unit. So that is actually going to make the oil cooler installation just a little bit easier. It will be going in front of the front well housing, and it's going to end up using this air duct in order to circulate air to that oil cooler. So it'll actually be really nice setup. I think it's going to turn out really good. But because the condenser unit is right here, the hookups are also right here. And that's also going to interfere with the oil cooler lines. So if we end up taking the oil cooler lines and move them exactly where they need to go per the stock N54 configuration, we should be okay. Because from the compressor, the line from the compressor to the condenser is going to remain unchanged. So basically all the other plumbing that goes in the front, like the radiator and the charge air input that goes to the intercooler, is all going to remain the same. This actually should be a pretty easy hookup, but I felt like it's necessary to break this up into a number of different videos to itemize it and describe it in detail as much as I can. So while I am outlining all of the air conditioning lines, as you can see, I have a mixture of E36 and N54 lines. I'm going to end up putting them together to make some sort of a Franken air conditioning system, which should work without a problem in this car. So making the provisions for all those parts is necessary to make sure that I don't have an oh gotcha moment at the end of this when I try to fit that last thing, and what happens is I realize that I can't fit it because I didn't think about the entire system as a whole first. So having said that, let's take a look behind the wheel well housing and see how the oil cooler fits and where we can mount it. So the air cooler is lightly installed. I say lightly as in we just kind of threw it in and it's floating around here. Where is it? Right there. So here it is, kind of just floating around here in the breeze. And what I need to do is I need to make mounts for it to make sure that it mounts in a specific location where it doesn't interfere with the travel of the front right wheel, but also so that the inner fender gap wheel well housing will end up fitting without modification. Although I do feel like I should make some modifications to it in this general area to allow airflow to come back out. We can't have airflow in and have it blocked on the backside. That doesn't make much sense for cooling. So we need to make sure that there's adequate airflow going out as well so that the air flows through and cools the oil. So I've loosely installed this, like I said, and it can really go anywhere. You can see the frame rails right here. This is the frame rail that I had welded up, so it's good clean metal to weld with. And what I'd like to do is ultimately, I think I need to position this a little bit higher, and I'll explain that later, but it needs to go up here. And there is like, I don't know, maybe like a ½ inch of wiggle room here where it's not hitting anything, and that's the exact location where I need to mount it. These are the two mounts that I'm going to end up using, the one below and the one above. And they're going to end up getting welded to the frame rail. So that's going to end up being the first part of it, but it is still going to move back and forth like this because there's going to be a large moment placed on these things. So what I need to do is I need to brace it in a third location that prevents that from rotating like I was explaining. So let's first install these two guys, get them welded up, and then we can work on how to prevent it from moving and see just how bad it really does move. I'm gonna remove the bumper to make things a little bit easier for me. Okay, so I made the first bracket here. Basically just a 90-degree bend, close up on the welds. Get this thing fitted up here such that all I need to do, drill my hole, tack it on, screw it on, and then this thing is kind of set. And you gotta start somewhere, guys. You gotta start with positioning it in certain location. And that's why you tack things, right? You tack things because you can always remove a tack pretty easily, move it elsewhere, adjust, and then retack. And sometimes with these types of engine swaps, a lot of it is trial and error, especially when you're prototyping. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Okay, so the mounts are on, at least the first mount is on. The second mount still needs to go on, but I feel like even after the second mount is on, this is still going to move back and forth like that because it's cantilevered along these two mounts. That's not good, and we need to fix that. So what I want to do is I want to weld another bracket that goes from the top up here down to one of these anchor points on the top. Not going to be that difficult, but it is absolutely necessary. So before I go any further with mounting that second mount, I want to put the bumper back on and just see how it fits, see if I have interferences, and if I do, make an adjustment. Okay, just as I had suspected, or call it guessed, this actually does fit really well here. There's very little interference between here and the bumper. You can see right there. It's actually pretty nice. The bumper is pretty well aligned, you can see there. Options. I love options. The way that this is mounted right now gives me a lot of options for figuring out how to get this lower mount done. I gotta make a custom bracket, but once I bend it in the right location, weld the nut on, tack it on, I mean, it's in. All I have to do is just remove everything and then just weld it all up. So this is actually pretty easy from here on out. Just gotta make sure that I fab the mount. And to fab it, you just kinda take a bracket, start off with something, and you modify, bend it to where you need it to be, and finally tack it. So before we start anything, we gotta make sure that we weld the nut to the back side and get it screwed on, see where everything lies. So lining it up, this guy actually fits pretty good. I'm going to tack it right here and then I'm going to massage it into place. So that's kind of the plan. All right guys, that oil cooler behind me is sturdy. 3 points of mounting, and now it's a matter of removing it and welding it all up. So let me introduce you to a nice time lapse of me doing all that before we go to the final process of airflow. Here's our air intake that I extracted from the E92 and modified it to kind of fit a little bit better, but it was a little bit of trial and error. So here it is installed. You want to basically see how this thing goes. So this is the inlet. I'm going to tuck this in here, and it's not ideal, but it's going to end up flowing some air to that area through this guy here on the front bumper. And I plan on bracketing it up with one of these guys. I'm going to weld it right to there, and then from there I'm going to take advantage of the hole here. So it's going to kind of sit a little bit like, let's see, kind of like that, right? So you can kind of see a little bit about what the hole, the bracket, the hole, the bracket. Much better. But final assembly will be final bracing and final fitment of everything. So I'm not too worried, but for now everything's placed and that's the important thing. So I'm good.
Alright guys, that just about does it for the oil cooler installation. We talked about the lines, we talked about the air intake. Let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, comment. I answer all comments and appreciate them. Please let me know what you guys think. Hey, and we're also talking about the next video. What do you want to see? Do you want to see air conditioning next? Do you want to see the coolant lines and reservoir installation next? You vote and let me know, and in a couple days, that's the one that's getting published. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks a lot for watching, and have a great day. Later!